Hello everyone, Sam here, and we gotta talk about PulpFest 2026. If you saw my last video, you know that I headed up to Pittsburgh last week to help participate in PulpFest, mostly as a representative of the Shadowed Circle. This is a magazine I've mentioned a couple of times before, and it's the magazine I work for that deals with nonfiction articles regarding the pulp character, the Shadow. And this year, PulpFest, my co-worker on the Shadowed Circle, Tim King, wanted to do some Shadow-related events at this year's PulpFest because this year was the Shadow's 95th anniversary. So that was the main reason I went up, and it was a very fun and interesting time. And I wanted to do this video just to kind of talk about what really went on at PulpFest and give you guys some good ideas about what the experience is like. You'll also note over my shoulder here this FedEx box, and that's the box where all my purchases from PulpFest are. And I'll do a haul video, a PulpFest haul video here sometime this week. But for now, it's going to sit in the background because there's a fair amount in that box, so that can be its own whole video. So to give a rough idea of what was going on, I left for PulpFest last Monday in the evening because the airline that my airport has is it goes to several different locations, but it only goes to them from that airport on certain days. So I could either leave Monday night, or I think it was Thursday or Friday night, and the con would have already been starting by then. So yeah, I had to leave on Monday night, and I headed up there. Didn't do much Tuesday because I was so tired I just kind of slept in that day. And on Wednesday I actually left to look at the Pittsburgh Zoo, because I'd heard things about the Pittsburgh Zoo, and it was interesting, but they were doing a lot of remodeling and building new, I don't want to say cages, but exhibits for the animals. And there were a lot of animals there that were just not out and about because their homes were being refurbished. So not a bad time, but there was a lot of folks and animals missing from that. So Thursday was the first day of the convention, and first thing I did was I went to the freebie table because a lot of you don't know this, but I actually run a podcast called Suitors of the Domino Lady podcast, and one of the projects that I had announced earlier this year was a story collection called Domino Lady 90 Years Young, because this year is her 90th anniversary. And I printed out some postcards and I left on the freebie table, and that was the main advertisement. You can learn more about this in the video I did about 90 Years Young earlier this year. So after that I went to the Shadowed Circle table, and our illustrator, Joe DeVito, was there, and he was the one that managed the table mostly on Thursday because we didn't have any merchandise at the time, and Joe was doing commissions and illustrations always at the desk, so that was my day of shopping, essentially. I got a lot of the stuff I wanted on that day. We then had the typical pizza dinner. I did that with Tim King, Joe DeVito, and I think Bill Cunningham from Men's Adventure Quarterly was there too. But yeah, and then the evening was mostly panels because the exhibitors hall closed in the late afternoon, so it was just I mostly went to panels. And there were some interesting ones. One of their main focuses this year was the pulp magazine Amazing Stories, and there were a lot of pulp panels regarding that. Those were pretty interesting. They had one about, I think it was called the Shaver Mystery, which was something that this this guy had sent submissions into Amazing Stories purporting this like lost race in the center of the earth that had like UFOs, and those were from UFOs came from, and there was a big thing about that. So that was kind of an interesting element. I also went to this panel that night about Doc Savage's science fiction story, his stories that had a sci-fi tint, because Doc Savage had a lot of stories that had elements of science fiction, even though a lot of people sort of debate about how science fiction-y they were, but the presenter there made a real good case for why these various stories were science fiction, and so that was pretty cool. But the one I liked the most that night was the one on Buck Rogers, because Buck Rogers, I didn't notice, was actually a pulp character before he was a comic strip character. And the presenter for that one talked about his pulp history going on into the comic strip and then going on to like the various serials and TV shows that spun out of it. And yeah, that one was really interesting. That really got me interested in Buck Rogers. I might search for some of his written stories in the near future. So that was very cool. So on Friday was essentially my day to be at the table. I stayed there pretty much most of the day, manning our shadowed circle table. And because of that, I went to none of the afternoon panels. Some of them seemed interesting, but I was more focused on the shadowed circle table. Excuse me. I also, but I did go to some of the evening panels. One was, I believe it was by Wyatt Doyle. He did a panel about Gil Cohen, who was a Men's Adventure magazine artist. And if you saw my Men's Adventure Quarterly video, you'll know Men's Adventure magazines were kind of the successors to pulp magazines. They ruled in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And this was a very interesting one talking about Gil Cohen's work, and because he was an artist. And it definitely got me interested in Cohen's work, so I'll probably check out that book they had about him. There was another panel that was about Ray Palmer, who was one of the editors of Amazing Stories, that science fiction pulp. And he had kind of an interesting life, I won't lie. He was big into UFOs, and that was kind of the big thing Ray Palmer's remembered for, is his fixation on UFOs in the mid to late 40s. So that was interesting. There was also a panel about Jack London, and how Jack London actually wrote science fiction stories. And, you know, excuse me. And, you know, most people don't think of Jack London as a sci-fi writer. They think of him for, like, his Northern Adventure stories. So that was very interesting reading that and seeing how Jack London's stories actually included a fair amount of science fiction. And the final panel for a night was run by Mike Chomko, who's the main organizer for PulpFest, and it was about the pulp magazine Ghost Stories. and those were about, well, ghost stories. It'd be people writing and submitting stories regarding their ghostly experiences. But only some of it was stuff that people wrote purporting to be true. A fair amount of them was made up stuff that either writers just sent in or the staff made up themselves. Apparently, Walter B. Gibson, the shadow writer, actually was tertiarily involved in that magazine. He wasn't the editor for it. He was editor for another one that was by the same company. But yeah, he had a connection to ghost stories because he also apparently he did submit a handful of stories to ghost stories as well too. So there was a shadow connection there. So for Saturday, Saturday was actually the main event in regards to all the shadow events, because the three of us from the Shadowed Circle, who were myself, Tim King, and Joe DeVito, we basically spent the morning doing some odds and ends. I was at the table. They were doing some other things. What I think they kind of swapped in and out of the table during this period. But in the early afternoon, the three of us and I believe it was 5 other people went down to this Chinese restaurant that was just down the road from the hotel. And this was our Shadow Luncheon. Because for those that don't know, the Shadow has a very strong connection to Chinatown. So so Tim's thought was, oh, let's go to a Chinese restaurant because that ties into the Shadow. And so that was nice. We got to meet some interesting Shadow fans, and we had a good meal. So that was fun. Then we had to come back to the venue because we were doing a panel called The Haunted Shadow, which talked about the supernatural stories featured in the Shadow magazine. I was the resident expert on the Voodoo Master. Tim wanted me to talk about the stories involving voodoo, which were mostly Voodoo Master stories. And yeah, I think I kind of overstudied on that one because I talked for a fair while on those particular stories, much longer than Tim did for some of the ghost ones. But yeah, that was still a fairly good one. And for the rest of the day that the floor was open, I mostly was at the table, but then I did a little bit of last minute shopping. But that was mostly for the rest of the afternoon. And then when that was done, I decided I was going to participate in a DocCon event. And DocCon is the Doc Savage Focus convention there at PulpFest. And so I went to the dinner they were having. They were having it at an Italian place down the street. And there were a lot of interesting people there at DocCon, and had some nice conversations with Ron Hill and I'm trying to think of his name. I can't remember his name, but we had a good conversation as well. One funny thing that kind of happened was that there was a waiter. We went into this group room where we were sitting because we were a big group. There were like 20 to 25 people there, and me and this other guy had sat in these one chairs when we gave our orders. Then these 2 other folks came in, and the way we were sitting, they weren't really able to sit together, so we moved over and they sat down. And apparently this really upset the waiter. Apparently they went by head counts, like wherever the person was sitting, that's where the bill goes. And this particular waiter just got really bent out of shape about us moving chairs, even though this wasn't like 20 minutes into the dinner or well into the dinner start. It was still like there's still people showing up. Like, you would think that you wouldn't want to decide where the check is going by seat until like after the folks had actually sat down. So, or you had a good idea that most of the people had shown up. So that was kind of a weird event. And it's like, yeah, I've worked in the restaurant business. I know it can be frustrating when people move seats, but that's also why when you go to the table with the waiting, with the meal, you're supposed to ask each individual person who has the meal. That it's like, and they do that even when they don't ask you to keep your seat. So I don't know. Maybe he was just having a bad day or something. But that was kind of a the one wrinkle of that event. It had nothing to do with anybody who was there. It was just a grumpy waiter. But so after all that, I went to the Munzie Award presentation, which is the award they give for the person they're honoring for their contributions to pulp fandom. And the guy who won it, I believe it was Chris Kolb, if I'm saying his name right. I don't know much about him, but I think I saw him do some Doc Savage stuff last year. I honestly don't know much about him, so but congratulations to him. They then had this big auction of different things at the PulpFest, and I sadly won none of them. The one thing I was really hoping for was this collection of Ballantine books that were like, they were called the Best Of series, and they had all the had like 23, 24 famous science fiction and fantasy writers, and they collected their best of in these Ballantine editions. And it was the complete collection. I was like, oh, I really want that. But then the price went a little too high, and I was like, nah, I can't get it. So that was a bummer. But to close out Saturday was the final Shadow event. We created our own Cobalt Club in the hotel lobby. And Ron Hill and the rest of the DocCon group helped out with that. And we got a pretty good attendance. A fair amount of them were kind of... I'm pretty sure a fair amount of them might have been more Doc Savage fans than Shadow fans. But there were a fair number of Shadow fans, so it was a successful get-together for a first-time Shadow event at PulpFest. So I was fairly pleased with that. So Sunday was the last day, and that was kind of the wind-down day for the convention. Tim left early. He had some family affair he had to go to. Joe DeVito and I manned the table, and we were going to man it for 4 hours because the exhibit room was open for another 4 hours in the morning. But by I think it was like 11:30, we realized, all right, we're not going to sell anything more. And with Bill Cunningham's help, we packed up and left when it was clear everybody else was packing up, and they had more complex setups than us, and they were already almost packed. So, yeah. Then Joe and I went our separate ways. Though I actually had to come back to the hotel after I'd left for about half an hour because I realized I left those postcards of the Domino lady 90 years young. So I wanted some of those because there was going to be some conventions I was going to sometime in the future that I was like, oh, I should have that there in case I want to, use them again. The other thing about Sunday was that it was raining. The rest of the convention had pretty decent weather, but it was raining the last day, which is not great when you have a bunch of books, and especially really old pulps that will fall apart if they get even the slightest bit of moisture. So I had the kind of time when I shipped some of my materials back. I had to wait till the rain stopped and there was a break. Then I could go and ship it back to my house. And one of the things about PulpFest is that a lot of the events start fairly early in the morning and go to fairly late in the night. So I was supremely tired by the time this was all done. And I remember after I shipped those books back to my house, I just fell asleep in the hotel room for like 2 hours. And I had to force myself to get up. So that was Sunday. So Monday was the day I could go back home. And so I checked out of the hotel and I did a little laundry while I was there. But the funny thing is, as I left, I was going towards the airport. I actually got lost in Pittsburgh because my phone's GPS, for some reason, kept saying the opposite direction of where I was supposed to go. I was supposed to get on this highway, I think it was 376, and to get to the airport from downtown Pittsburgh, which is where I was at the time, you had to head west, because the Pittsburgh airport is on the west side of Pittsburgh, technically outside of it, if I remember correctly. But my GPS kept saying, no, take the highway that goes east. And it's like, what? It made no sense. Initially, I thought, okay, I just misheard it. That's on me. But no, it repeatedly kept saying, no, take 476 east. It's like, the airport's in the west. Like, what are you doing? So, it took me a little longer to get to the airport than I hoped, but still plenty of time. But then after I got through security, I lost my boarding pass. Again, not a huge problem. I was able to get a new one. But then, just as I was sitting down, having a little bit of dinner, I get a call from my brother, and apparently we had a rat snake get into our house, and he'd crawled in under somewhere, and our house has a lot of boxes and stuff, so if a snake's in there and he disappears, you're going to have a hard time finding him. So that was kind of hanging over my head during the call. And keep in mind, a rat snake is not venomous, but people just generally don't like having snakes in their house. So then I got on the flight and arrived back home just before midnight, and after driving back home, I had to do some stuff, and then I was finally able to get to bed around 2 a.m. So you think, oh, well, you slept in. Nope, because it was a garbage day the next day, so I had to wake up at 8:30. So not much sleep there. Fortunately, the snake was caught around noon, so that was one less thing to worry about. I spent the rest of the day just doing odds and ends because I just had no energy. I couldn't do anything. And so I went to bed last night. And today, I slept for 13 hours. I went to bed around midnight last night, and I didn't get up until 1 p.m. I woke up at like around 8:30, I think, to go to the bathroom, but I went right back to bed and didn't stir a bit. So, PulpFest takes a lot out of you if you go to it. If you go back home and you sleep 12 hours straight, not unusual. So just keep that in mind if you go. It can exhaust you. But yeah, also when I woke up this, I was about to say this morning, no, this afternoon, I found the packages from PulpFest on my porch. So I say packages, the one you see behind me, that's the stuff for my personal use. Some stuff regarding the Shadowed Circle got sent to me. See if I can do anything with it. So that's where we've been at so far. I did a couple of odds and ends, and then I decided, you know what? Make this quick video to tell folks what PulpFest was like and what happened. So, yeah, that's where we're at. So, I think the big thing that was most important to me during this PulpFest was the networking. And I don't so much mean in a business sense, like the way most people use it, but in a sort of community and fandom sense. Because there were a lot of people I met here who I had either only briefly met before or had never met before. So it was really interesting talking to many of them. I mentioned Bill Cunningham. Bill Cunningham is the, I believe the phrase is art designer for Men's Adventure Quarterly, which is a publication I really enjoy. I had some nice talks with him. And also Will Murray, because Will Murray was on the table right beside the Shadowed Circle. He was selling some of his books. And yeah, we had a pleasant conversation. He was actually very complimentary of the Secret Agent X versus Dr. Death primer videos I did. And yeah, that was very nice to hear, because I was hoping that that those videos would help people out to learn more about those characters. Obviously, Will Murray doesn't need to learn about them, given how he has done plenty of research. But I was quite happy that he saw their utility. So I was quite thankful for that. And he actually sold me a few books. One was Sherlock Holmes, and there's two others. I won't mention them just yet, but there were two others he gave me, and I'll talk about them in the unboxing video, or the PulpFest haul video. So it was very pleasant talking to him, and just having pleasant discussions. I also met Bill Maynard, also known as William Patrick Maynard, and Bill was the author of the current Fu Manchu books. Apparently, he had written a trio of new Fu Manchu books. The first two came out several years ago, but this third one had kind of been in limbo for a while. And the third one was supposed to premiere at PulpFest, but something went wrong with the publisher. Whoever was publishing the books just didn't do anything. Yeah, they didn't do anything. They didn't publish the book. And I don't mean the publisher of the publisher canceled books who is publishing them. I mean the actual printers. It's probably more accurate to say the printers. So the printers hadn't delivered that Fu Manchu book, so we're going to have to wait a little bit for that. But we had a nice talk about Sax Rohmer, and he actually was very complimentary of this BookTube channel. He thought it had some good insights, and he liked that I actually went fairly in depth with a lot of my reviews. So that was very helpful. I like that. It's a good feeling knowing that two of the best pulp writers of today are saying, "Good job." it's a very nice feeling. I also ran into Michael Brown. Michael Brown was the head of the Pulp Era Amateur Press Society that I'm a part of. That was very nice to meet him finally. I think I've seen him at a couple of other conventions, but this was sort of the first time I really met him face to face. Also, Bill Lampkin. Bill Lampkin is the he's the main publisher of the Pulpster, which is the PulpFest main magazine. And yeah, we talked a little bit, and we actually were talking a little bit because he's from Florida, just like me. And apparently, there's a lot of pulp fans who live here in Florida, but Florida really hasn't had much of a dedicated pulp convention for, I think it's been about 4 years or so. So, Bill Lampkin and I were kind of, spitballing ideas of like, well, maybe Florida is in need of another pulp convention of its own. So, that was kind of an interesting discussion, and maybe something will come of that. We'll see. And there were a whole lot of other people I talked to over the weekend, many of whom's names I don't remember. It's kind of funny. That's not so much because I wasn't paying attention. It was kind of this thing. A lot of people pointed out that the PulpFest name tags, these PulpFest name tags, they kind of had this weird thing where the front is supposed to be displayed, showing your name, like mine here, but they kept flipping over for whatever reason, and it would just show this, it's hard to see on this camera, but it's the schedule of events. So every time you go up to somebody, you would just see these schedule of events because the name tag kept flipping. It was very weird. A lot of people who were there complained about it. So it's just what was going on. So I apologize to anybody whose names I've missed. It's not because I wasn't paying attention. It's because the name tags kept flipping. And like I said, Bill Maynard and Will Murray complimented me about this BookTube channel, but there were actually a couple of other people who mentioned it, and that was quite heartening. I'm glad that there's a little bit of an audience for this. And there was also folks that mentioned my Suitors of the Domino Lady podcast, which is really exciting to me because I've been really trying to grow that podcast audience. It's been kind of waylaid due to the events of this year, but I'm going to, with the 90 Years Young collection coming out, I really want to get more episodes out so that I can build a little excitement for that. So, but I'm happy that several people at the convention did know about it. So that's very, very helpful. So the final verdict. I was going to be cute and say I'm going to rank PulpFest on 0 out of 5 stars. Where is it? I'm going to rank on my usual 5-star system, 0 being the worst, 5 being the best. Obviously, I'm not going to do that, but I will say that it was overall a very good convention experience. It was different this time around because this year I was actually in a position of power. Not much of one, but a little bit of one. Last year I was there technically with the Shadowed Circle, but I wasn't really doing anything with them. This time I was. So it was very fun in that respect. It was a very good convention. But like I said, it was a very tiring one. There's so much stuff happening and going on that you kind of get worn out. So if you go, just be aware you might need to sleep in a day after it's done. Excuse me. I will also say that one thing that was somewhat frustrating, but in some ways it's a good thing. We sold some books at the Shattered Circle table, but we have such an established presence in the pulp field that a lot of people didn't buy our books, not because they weren't good, but because they'd already bought them. We've been making our presence known throughout the last 4 years very well, to the point that people are buying our books pretty quickly after they're released, or getting it through Kickstarters and things like that. So it's a thing where we're getting plenty of traction in the pulp field, but that sometimes doesn't mean you're going to sell a lot of books at a convention filled with people who already know who you are and are very obsessed with your materials. So again, not a bad thing. I'm glad that we had plenty of admirers and subscribers, but it is kind of that thing of like, well, you have to make sure you have to make sure that you can reach out and grab new eyes, because sometimes if your fan base is really devoted, they're just going to get the stuff before you can even really try to sell them at a venue, especially if they've been out for a while. So that's the one lesson I really learned here at this con. It's like you got to make sure you have something either new or unique to the convention you go to, because otherwise it might not translate in the way you're expecting. Like I said, good, still a good time overall, especially because of the shadow-themed mini convention we had. That was probably worth all of that, because it was a very strong start, and even though we had a small audience for some of the things, we had a small audience for the luncheon, but we had a big audience for the Haunted Shadow panel and the Cobalt Club meetup. So I think we're on track to having a good shadow-themed mini-con. It's very cool, and I'm looking forward to it for next year. So that was very successful, and I'm glad that went over well. I'm glad Tim King and Ron Hill collaborated to make that a very good event. So that's all I'm going to say for now. Like I said, I'll do the PulpFest haul video probably within the next 2 or 3 days. But I just wanted to do a quick, I say quick, I'm looking at the time now, it's about to pass 39 minutes. But I wanted to do this video just to let people know about the PulpFest experience, and tell you, if you're into pulps or paperbacks, you probably would enjoy this convention. It was a lot of fun. Tiring, but fun. So I'm going to leave it at that, and thank you to everybody who talked with me at PulpFest, and I hope that it'll be just as good next year. All right. Bye.